what I know from a lot of people talking about NFTs, Metaverse and IP and those kind of things, it scares them off. That they say, forget it, it's not my thing. So we have to find ways, I think, when we talk about it, to simplify it and to put things in perspective.
Anyone who can code an NFT or has a platform you can put it, that's not the hard part, really. The hard part is building a community that's aware of it, creating the desire for it by sharing the story behind it.
You have to be very creative these days to satisfy your customer, because everybody can do it, and come up with the new thing.
Welcome, and thank you for coming.
No, I love it. And finally, I mean, I had to move it up a few times, as you know. So
yeah. I just thought it would be fantastic to chat about it and to ask a couple of different things, or to explore a couple of different things, like things that my kids ask me about NFTs. I'm excited about all of the applications and all of the, seemingly hugely obvious synergies between diamond, traceability, authenticity, ownership. There's so many things. But I was walking my dogs with the kids after we did that webinar last week, and they said, so how do you make one? And I was like, you gotta code it, but I have no idea.
There's so much information online, on the fora, on manuals, on platforms like the MetaMask and all these other platforms are out there. And it's amazing. There's a whole world opened up. And then you go to the technicalities, and you have your piece of art, you upload it to that platform, and they convert it into a code, and that's basically your NFT. And you have to mint it, or to mine it actually, to get it going. But then that is the information so far I know. But what happens? You have all those techies on those platforms which will do it for you, and of course it's exciting, and learning by doing was also what I didn't realize enough is that if you want to be successful in creating a community, I think the technical part of this is not that complicated in a way that their platforms and their manuals, etc. But it's not like just raising a quick buck. It's creating communities, it's creating a buzz and everything else. So that is more of importance than the technical side, I think.
Right.
And other question, somebody asked me a question as well. Well, how do you know that piece of art, you can't put it on another server, on another platform, and then the same thing? So how are you sure it is authentic or not a copy? And I think each piece of art has this specific code, which you cannot break or copy or whatsoever. So I think that is the answer for me. But again, I'm still learning.
Learning. Me too. But where you came at this from originally, and I'm asking the questions. And like I told you, when you first were so gracious as to accept my invitation to have this chat, it's more about the people that I'm curious about. And it's interesting because you just said, like, NFTs, anyone who can code an NFT or has a platform you can put it, that's not the hard part, really. The hard part is building a community that's aware of it, creating the desire for it by sharing the story behind it. And then the immutable nature of the way the story is now contained, but can still be added to. I want to ask you about that in a little bit. But coming back to you, the name of your business,
I call it LuxuryFinTech. So
LuxuryFinTech.
And I'm CEO founder, but LuxuryFinTech is actually something which popped up over the years in a way that I worked with ABN AMRO Bank, and at ABN AMRO Bank I was responsible for the finance business of the diamond trade, basically. At a certain moment we had 5 or 6 billion outstanding, and we were the largest finance provider in the industry. But what we were finding is just a piece of paper. And then I think, okay, but where are the diamonds? And then this whole traceability and provenance thing started, and sourcing, etc. So we started working with De Beers on Tracer. We started working with Ridgeline on provenance proof, on Trust Chain, and with Gubelin on provenance proof. So we were all part of that. Actually, myself was one of the guys who took the initiative by sitting together with Signet. Everybody was there to say, hey, it was more than 5 years ago. How can we start doing this? And I was still with ABN AMRO, but then I thought, okay, ABN AMRO changed the strategy and other reorganizations. I said, okay, let me try to become an entrepreneur. and run my own business with what I learned over the years in finance, in client management, etc. And that's how Luxury FinTech got born. And yeah, I think that's where we are now, 5 years later, and still learning.
Right. But the reach is, you're one of those fabulous people to talk to and to work with, because you've it doesn't sound like you've ever limited yourself to a silo. As you learn and grow, the people that you can help learn and grow with you, right? I mean, that's what I'm seeing from the outside looking in anyway.
One of my big inspirations was at a certain moment being in California at Singularity University. And I spent there 7-8 days in August 2015. And I was submerged in a world which I didn't know existed. These were all young entrepreneurs in my class in the university. We had the best specialists in the world about everything you can think of. We worked 24/7. We built robots, everything else. But it was so inspiring. And the most inspiring thing was a part that opened my eyes for all the new technology. Was the fact that these young kids had already had a second or third startup, were extremely rich, but shared everything they had. They shared. And in my generation was, if I have a good invention, I kept it for myself, and I didn't share. But these guys share it because they know if I share it with him or her, he or she has also great ideas, and we can combine it. So that kind of experience at Singularity University was key. Again, going back to the communities and working with people, because that's the way you can make the difference.
You've talked about community on the front end of when businesses use NFTs to solve problems or create opportunities. You've talked about on the back end of your career that communities have changed your view on life. And I think one of the I say the same thing over and over and over again, because I know not everybody's listening to me all the time. And so consistency breeds trust as well. But I always say people do business with people, and people don't make decisions in silence. They make decisions with other people. So these communities and storytelling, all the digital, all the phygital, all the NFT, all the metaverse, if the human beings are embracing it and seeing like a pain being solved or an opportunity being created, or seeing that their community is also willing to try this thing, it doesn't fly, right? It needs the community. I'm an optimist. I am an optimist. It's probably my biggest, flaw. But I'm not like I sit on my butt and it will come to me optimist. I'm like, the bus will stop. I'll run my ass off and catch it. It will stop. It's more like that.
Exactly.
Disparities can make me despair. I mean, there's a reason why they're called disparities, right? What's happening versus all the exciting things that are happening, like we just referred to. Part of the disparity that I do find frustrating when we have these exciting talks about new technology is, and I think I mentioned it like for half a second, was the fact that like huge percentages of the front lines of our industry don't have a website. So how exciting is all this? And like the disparity between 1.5 million crown being sold as an NFT by Dolce & Gabbana, and like, Sarah and John Anderson, who don't yet have the ability to transact online on their website. And even if they had a website, they wouldn't know how to drive traffic. Like it's a domino. That kind of disparity, which is a much easier one to discuss than the one we first raised, always makes me feel like, how do we address both things at once, or do we not?
I know. It's time. When the first cars came out, the T4, there was a guy running in front of the car with a red flag. I mean, it was way before your or my time, and running the red flag to warn everybody that the car was coming. Yes, I remember my grandfather saying, well, when the first planes came over, and we all ran out to see the planes, and it was a miracle. I mean, those kind of things. And look where we are now with cars and planes and trains and everything else. So I think it's a matter of time that everybody will understand this. And what I said, I said it in one of the webinars we did, that Bill Gates said 25 years ago that the internet will never be a success.
Right.
Look where we are now. So I think maybe we have to look in time periods of 20, 25, like a generation.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that well, I'm a little bit older, but your kids, my grandchildren, that's sort of that next generation will look back at us in this generation. Oh my God, there's the guys running with the red flag, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's time which will change. And at a certain moment, there's this new generation of kids and children who grow up with this. I mean, if you look at your children already, and they're also already quite, how old are they now? There are
11, 12, 16, and 18.
Yes, exactly. So you have exactly that, the whole spectrum of almost the 18 one is already completely online, and so I think they will teach also that next generation what is possible, and that's why it's so important to have young people in your company. Not only learning from your kids, but hire young people in your company who are all the TikToks and who do these things, and then the jeweler who is not online, Mrs. Anderson, hire somebody, say, hey, by the way, have a look at what is this TikTok, what is this Metaverse, tell it, and get that into your system. So I think time and curiosity would help.
It's okay that I don't know. I'm going to find out by asking these questions. And then I'm going to be like, I'm smarter now than I was 3 months ago, Erik. Like, I think about clients I had 3 years ago and I think, wow, I could have done so much more if I knew what I know now. You know what I mean? If the people aren't going to embrace how it's going to help them and how it's going to make them more valuable, and if it's not going to be understood, it's not going to fly.
Hi, Elle here. Do you want to learn how to get on the phone with any buyer that you want to work with without an introduction or a referral? Click to get the downloadable that we've made for you that you can start using right away and will be really useful for your business and growing your revenue.
I get so frustrated sometimes, like, because I know how much things can help people if they would look in that direction. But I also think it's very hard for people to get into a helicopter and look at their whole business and make sure that they have a true goal.
Yeah.
That then they can make decisions about, should I be doing TikTok? Should I be having NFT? They need to say, okay, does that feed into my true goal? Does that feed into the business strategy that I've planned for the next 4 quarters? Yes or no? And make decisions so that people don't kind of do shiny thing and be all over the place.
When we are in these webinars, when we are in these seminars, when we are at JCK, when we all listen to each other, we all love to convince each other. One of the biggest, my irritation also about sustainability, we talk about sustainability, we have the RGCs of this world, etc., etc. But then what does the consumer know about this? Do we? I mean, does the consumer care? Does the consumer know about it? You see the Bain reports, actually, they don't really care. They look at price and that's it. Depends a little bit on where you are in the world. So we spend a lot of time and efforts on everything related to ESG and CSR issues, but we keep it to ourselves in a way. We don't communicate it to the rest of the world. And that's a frustration. And now we have this new Metaverse thing, and we start talking about that. We all convince each other, wow, it's a great thing to do. But then, what does the rest of the world know about it? And what I said earlier, I'm convinced that the jewelry industry and the fashion industry, the art industry is at the forefront of the opportunity. Picking this opportunity, the jewelry industry should do it because this is one of a lifetime chance, honestly, to make this big leap towards well, the storytelling, sustainability, responsibility, provenance. I hate the word transparency, but authenticity. These kind of things you can all do it with this kind of technology.
The story that you just told about the guys running in front of the Model T with the red flag, I want to share what it brought to my mind immediately. I have the good fortune of working with Martin Rappaport for a year. He was one of our clients. And he said, when they were all riding around on their horses, and he must have told me this one like 3 times over the year when they were all right. And Henry Ford said, what do you guys really need? What's going to solve your pain? What's the opportunity you want? Their answer was faster horses. Right?
Exactly.
Because they know what was being built behind the walls of the T-model Ford, factory, and they had no idea that nothing they wanted was actually what they needed. And I feel like this is one of, those kind of moments. There's a whole lot of what no one knows they're going to need.
Absolutely.
But there was one part of our conversation, you and I touched on it, where the web 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0. I feel this all the time because you know how much content I pump out, right? And that's a vision, that I can't do that alone at this point. I mean, I did it alone when I was doing 6 content posts a day, but I still create all the content, but I have a lot of people around me helping to edit it and get it where it needs to be at the right time. It's a machine. And it brings me back to this, what we said about the fact that I don't even own it. None of it's mine. It's all just out there. And the fact that I don't think it's going to happen very quickly, by any stretch of the imagination, if we judge by the rest of the uptake rapidity in our industry. But like getting your ownership, that you can own real estate, you can own art, you can own so many different things in Web 3.0. like you could never do right now. It goes out there and it's gone. There's no link back to you. There's no ability to sell and resell and get the artist to always get something. Like that is huge. And I feel like that part doesn't get touched on that much.
No, exactly. And it was one of the things when I worked with Arena and also in the argument, why would people buy an NFT? Well, actually it's also good for the artist. I remember she said, I sold at a certain moment a piece of art for $5,000 or whatsoever. It was a long time ago when she's not as famous as she is now. And then the one who bought it from her sold it later on for $50,000 or something. I don't know. So he made the profit, and the artist in this case didn't make the profit. This is just an example. When we talk about this new technology, the NFTs, the Metaverse, you are able to keep your intellectual property. You're able to identify yourself with whatever you communicate. So you really own it in an immutable way. What I know from a lot of people talking about NFTs, Metaverse, and IP and those kind of things, it scares them off. It is so much and so difficult sometimes to understand what we talk about, that they say that they forget it. It's not my thing. So we have to find ways, I think, when we talk about it, to simplify it in a way and to put things in perspective.
My hope in my Pollyanna world is that right now, someone who understands how to best monetize something, whether it's art, jewelry, a business process, you name it, whoever is really good at best monetizing it kind of wins, right? Because as you said, even if I heard it from someone else, more people are listening to me and I'm getting more money for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like there is a potential for this to kind of democratize talent. It's not just the person who's best able to bank their talent, or monetize their talent. But okay, maybe they won't do so well on that first sale. But if something becomes popular, we now know we have all of the threads going back to that perhaps person who wasn't great at signal to noise or monetizing an idea, but gets rewarded for it and thus is able to continue creating, perhaps. Like that would be a lovely benefit.
The barrier for a lot of people to start to become an entrepreneur or a trader or whatever, I mean, the barrier was high, and with this new technology is very, very low. I see a lot of young people who quit their job indeed and started to do day trading with cryptos or to other things and NFTs, etc. I mean, that other example, somebody told me that he bought a house in the Metaverse online. So not a real house, a virtual house for $100,000. And that house was next to a famous artist and next to an old president, and because that's what you all can create. Mm-hmm. And that house created that value in the Metaverse because it was next to this famous artist and next to the ex-president or whatsoever. So, I mean, that's mind-boggling for me. But that's happening.
How do they get to enjoy the house?
Well, they can go into the house, put the avatar in there, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they live in that house virtually. And people think it's a game or whatsoever. No, it's a real life. And people make real money in crypto money. by inviting people. You can invite your favorite pop star.
Yeah, over to your house.
And then you create parties in the house with your friends. You can ask money for that. But can you imagine? I thought it was one of the most extreme examples I saw.
Because the question that I ask myself is okay, I buy the $100,000 house, right? And like you said, I can go into it virtual. I can have my avatar in there. I can buy my avatar jewelry. I can maybe hire Justin Bieber or Jennifer Lopez to do a concert.
Exactly.
But where is my body while I'm enjoying all that? Sitting here at my desk, right?
Yeah, but probably that goes also with the goggles and everything else. So I mean, we said it earlier. We had the old brick and mortar. Suddenly the debate we had: shall we go online? Yes or no? And all people and go to work. Yeah. And now we have to debate: do we go to Metaverse?
I do wonder, like, because I don't know about you, but I used to travel, about every 4 to 6 weeks. And this year I've traveled even more than that because people are making up for lost time and so many canceled things. I'm like, when would I have time to be in the Metaverse? And this is me. And you know that I'm a proponent and I'm excited, but I'm like, when will I have time to be in the Metaverse? But when I'm at home, Erik, this is my desk. This is my office. Like you could do this, my fireplace. Yeah. Like this is where I am. And I've been here since 5:30 this morning, and it's 3 o'clock, 10 past 3. I'm going to be here for another 2 hours. I don't want to look at another screen. I don't want to put on I want to go out. I want to get some air. I want to see my dog.
And I'm with you. And the people in the Metaverse, they walk their dog in their own virtual garden and a virtual dog, etc. So I would go crazy. But I do think a lot of people, that younger generation is while they have the bus to home, at the home. So they're always online, to put it like that. They're always in that atmosphere. Let me put it like that.
But out of the same, like the other side of my one mouth, I also know that like when I grew up, there was a Consumers Distributors. I grew up in America, and there was a store called Consumers Distributors. And you went into the store and they had like a high credenza table with big catalogs on it. It was like the Sears catalog,
Yeah.
And you went in, they only had a few samples of things actually in the tiny store, but you look through the catalog, right? And then, obviously, not obviously, I live between a chicken farm and a dairy farm, and there's no stores but 45 minutes from me. I do all my shopping online. And now if I go onto a clothing site and there's not a model wearing the clothing, and then not a video, so I can see how it moves and different lighting, I'm really picky. So maybe in 10 years time, I really want to just put on my Metaverse glasses and I want to really get a good look around her. You know what I mean? So maybe that's coming because I was sitting leafing.
No, that's what I mean. And let's not scare ourselves or have the jewels we talk about, or for the industry say, oh my God, see it as a threat, but see it as an opportunity. Can you imagine? I opened my wallet, what is it, a year ago? So I was late adopter, basically. It's a year ago. I had my crypto wallet. And then if you see the fees in trading, I mean, it's 5-6% easy. It's horrendous. So who's making now the real money there? Well, these platforms are. So I hope that will change as well, and that there's more competition coming up, and that you see the same thing with you had the old banks, the old traditional banks with the payment systems, taking over by the big payment firms now at lower fees, and hopefully we'll see that trend coming as well, and that there will be some regulation as well coming up. Yeah. So yeah, it's also let's also see the flaws. There's still fraud there. There's this high fee, so let's also be aware of that. And the other thing is, what are people doing with the data? What are these platforms doing with your data? I mean, you just said, some things are immutable and you can own your IP and everything else, but there's a lot of data where I think, okay, what are I going to do with it? There's also something which is scary from that point of view. I mean, the big brother is watching all over you. The whole Metaverse movement, let me put it like that, is only creating more data points and more tracking and more. So yeah, I think there's also a other side where we have to be aware of that it's not all just hunky-dory, but we have to be very careful on what's happening from that point of view.
Right.
This is the ex-banker speaking, here.
Yeah, but I'm just curious, in your entrepreneurial life, do you find that a lot of businesses are asking the questions or exploring, or it's really all at this point just kind of conversations at a cocktail party?
I see a lot of companies knocking on the door and say, hey, how you do this, and tell us more. And so that's really popping up a little bit, and they're genuinely interested. But I'm now working for a company saying, why don't we do kind of a crowdfunding? Why do we go for traditional equity or debt finance or whatsoever? But this is such a great story. Why don't we do a crowdfunding project? And then I start exploring those crowdfunding platforms. You have to be very creative these days to satisfy your customer, because everybody can do it and come up with the new thing. But it starts by reinventing yourself, and then you can reinvent your client.
When I ran out or I didn't know enough about something, I would reach out to all the third-party service providers I had used another time and said, what are you doing now? Do you think, would you like to work on a project with me? And then they sort of end up getting sucked into the vortex.
Yeah, and but I had a boss, and I liked the guy, a Dutch guy, and he always asked stupid questions. I thought these questions were very stupid. I thought, fuck, he's the boss, he should know these things. So why is he asking these questions? So I said at a certain moment, when I knew a little bit better, I said, Chris, you always ask these stupid questions. He says, no, these are not stupid questions. I just want to know whether you understand these things. And I don't want to tell you what to do, but I want you to discover what to do. And that's why I'm still asking these questions. And he says, and actually they're not stupid questions, they're only stupid answers. So, but it's always like, when I don't know something, then I start reaching out. And the internet is the best platform, and maybe in the future the Metaverse is the best platform, because all the information is there, and you just have to be able to grasp it and to make it into your own story.
Such valuable stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
Asking the stupid questions to make sure that we level set. Are we on the same page?
Yeah,
Do we understand the starting point?
Exactly.
And
since then, I'm not afraid of asking questions or make myself vulnerable from that point of view, because we don't need to keep up appearances. Say, hey, well, tell me more. Tell me more. Why is this, and why do you do this? And by doing so, you learn a lot in the meantime.
Yeah, which brings it right back to people, right? Having the confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay that I don't know. I'm going to find out by asking these questions. And then I'm going to be like, I'm smarter now than I was 3 months ago, Erik. Like, I think about clients I had 3 years ago, and I think, wow, I could have done so much more if I knew what I know now. You know what I mean? But it's because, like you said, we're old enough anyway. And I think some of it does come with age, and some of it comes with, just constantly putting yourself out there and saying, whatever I do know is what I know. And what I don't know is, what I'm going to learn. Or like you said, there's something, I'm never going to be a concert pianist, Erik.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. I'd always say, well, I don't know what I don't know. And we don't know what we don't know, but let's find out. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how it naturally came back yet again to all the tools in the world, all the hammers, all the nails, all the websites, all the NFTs. If the people aren't going to embrace how it's going to help them and how it's going to make them more valuable, and if it's not going to be understood, it's not going to fly. So I love that and we say the same thing. I'm in total agreement. Like, our number one job isn't that we can look at a business and talk in 22 minutes about where we think there are gaps and opportunities, but client relationship management, because you have to tell that type of information to different colors or types of people in such different ways.
Yeah.
And that's true.
I agree. The whatever internet's Metaverse or whatsoever, that's all tools, but it's all about the people in the meantime applying those tools and have crazy people like you and me to help them out on certain things.
But you're one of those people. Like, I keep coming back to you. Like, when I see you on webinars where I'm not, where I have the luxury of being on a webinar with you, you're always consuming, you're always processing, assimilating, and then understanding how to practically apply it. And I've watched you do it again and again. My hat is off to you. My respect is solidified with every passing year. Thank you so much, really, for coming on and just chatting with me about NFTs in the universe, but about more than anything else, people, I think, today.
But it was a big pleasure, and you're too kind to me. So I'm just a normal guy, and I have fun in what I'm doing, and I admire what you are doing with your team and everybody else. So you keep people on their toes as well. So I chapeau to you and your team. So thanks a lot. And see you next time.
If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. It's full of our expertise and tips on diamonds, gemstones, and jewelry, growing your top line revenue, and business strategy. Just click on the link, subscribe, and hit the bell button so that you'll be notified of our next videos, and give us a like. Bye for now.